Is that dark? I mean, you're a whole Scorpio. Now that I know you're a Scorpio, I'm like, is that dark, Brittany? Is it? It's real. I'm already doctor. I want to correct, continue correcting people. Yes. So let's talk about confidence. We'll also come back to that in November. Now I'm going to talk about the defense process for those of you ready, you practicing. Okay. I'm going to take a different approach than what you probably are expecting, but go with me. Do not skip this part. You skip this beginning part, you're going to be real sad on the day of your defense. You're going to be real, real sad. Okay. Okay. Find you a friend. This is where you phone a friend. You say, hey, friend, I got a job for you. Your job on the day is to have some snacks. I would encourage you to have like a bestie or someone who knows you, but at least give them a list to be like, these are the things I like. Just let me tell you what's going to happen. As you get close to the day, you're gonna be like, I'm good. I don't need anything. It's just gonna be a couple of hours. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. That's you leading up to the defense. On the day of the defense, you're not gonna be able to find your shoes. You're gonna be like, I don't know where my keys are. I can't figure out how to put my shirt on. I didn't eat for the 2 days because I was too nervous and now I'm starving. It's gonna be you on the day of. So you want to find a friend whose job it is to bring you something, your favorite candy, some M&Ms, a water bottle, or something. This person should also be the point of contact for your family and friends. If you are inviting people to your defense, you don't need to be the person they trying to get answers from. When depending on how this is going, they don't if they need help with parking, they need to find the building, they don't know how to get on Zoom, they never downloaded Zoom before, right? Because going back to the elders, they don't know how to use the Zoom. The eyes be all up in the camera. Y'all, listen, I FaceTime my dad at least 2 or 3 times a week, and he still, when he FaceTimes me, that's all I see is this. I don't see nothing else because he can't realize that he needs to put the camera back. Think about that while you trying to defend your dissertation. Then unmute it. Yes, people in the background, they at work, they talking, they yelling at kids. You don't want to have to be the person responsible for muting the Zoom, letting people in from the waiting room, resending the link. Oh, so and so can get on. So and so got kicked off. Do you want to be dealing with that while you're trying to defend your dissertation? No, find you somebody to do that for you. And so that they can also be responsible for hosting the room, recording, taking notes. So your only job is to just show up and present your slides. You and that person, or just that person, plan whatever the celebration is going to be afterwards. That person is responsible for making sure and communicating with people. This is how we get to the restaurant. Call me. Here is my phone number. Do not call them. They are defending, because this is mostly for people outside of academia, like your family. They don't understand what this process is. They have no clue what to expect. And so they don't know how big of a deal it is for you and how nervous you're going to be. And here's the thing, you don't, what I'm asking for you to do, Edwada, the chair is going to have a job. I'm asking for, not all chairs are responsible for the Zoom room. So that is a difference. But your chair is not going to really talk to your family. And depending on what your chair look like, your family don't want to talk to your chair. They want to talk to somebody that look like them, that speak like them. So that's why I'm asking for this separate person. And I've been on too many defenses where they're like, I didn't record. You have a point person just to make sure, even if the chair is the one responsible for it, that that person is in the comments or like sending a private message to your chair to be like, oh, don't forget to record. And you want someone to take pictures of moments throughout the defense. Someone to remember to download the chat if you're on Zoom. Someone just to take notes. There's so much happening in the defense that you won't be able to pay attention to because you're so nervous and you're so focused on defending your dissertation. Excuse me. Prepare your space. I don't care if you're on campus or you're at home. Don't think, oh, I'm just going to go in this corner over here. I'm going to be fine. I don't need anything special. What I say, you're nervous. You're going to need special things. You're going to have to communicate to your nervous system that everything is okay and that you're not going to melt, because I thought I was going to melt for my defense. I don't know why melting is my go-to, but that's how it feels on the inside. So I encourage you to find some pictures, something that you can see that no one else can see. I mean, if you don't care about them seeing, whatever, but like something that's going to be in your line of sight that will instantly calm you. Think about pictures of loved ones. Think about special belongings. Think about something that you can fidget with. Like me, I'm like, I gotta have something in my hand. I love a good candle, but you can't have no candles on campus, so I had a diffuser. You could think about a plug-in, or if you at home, have candles. Make a playlist. I'm thinking about, why am I blanking on her name now? It starts with a J. Janae. We had a whole, like, a Southern old music playlist, and everybody was getting their whole churchy life up on that defense because we were waiting for a very long time for her committee to come back for some reason. I think about Dante. Now, he had like an R&B situation going on, but his person also created a Google form where people could fill out and send him notes throughout his or like so he can read them after the defense. Just trying to think of things. If you want music in the background, what else? You want special lighting? You need a blanket? Like what's going to keep you comfortable? Try to eat something, but I also understand nerves. Nerves is a real thing. I don't have one with me, but get like a pre-made like protein shake because at least you'll get some nutrients, but you don't have to worry about chewing or having something heavy on your stomach in case you're just real nervous. Drink all the water. Even if you can't eat anything, drink before, drink during the day, drink some water. Wear something that gives you confidence and comfort. This is not the time to be experimenting with new outfits. Try it on before the day. Because the worst thing is to be up in front of people and you constantly tugging and rearranging and you don't because if you don't feel comfortable or look comfortable, nobody else is going to look comfortable or feel comfortable. Whatever you got to do, call your maker, pray, meditate, get yourself calm. And do not schedule anything around this defense day. You're going to think like, oh, I should be fine. I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk and then I'm going to just go work the rest of the day. No, don't just go ahead and take off. Just take off. You're going to be done. Mentally and emotionally, you're going to be done. So just give yourself that gift because you worked really hard to get to this one day. And when your nervous system realizes that you successfully defended your dissertation, the level of exhaustion you're going to feel. You're not going to want to go to nobody's job. You're not going to want to do nothing. Most people, honestly, are like they just cut their phone off and they just stay in their house. They're like, I don't want to talk to anyone. You know what, Mimi? I hope that like you have ring lights, spotlights. I hope you have interactive backgrounds. Okay. I hope the outfit is outfitting. Like, I just hope all the things for you and your Leo energy. Come on, Brittany. Okay. So that's preparing you. Now, preparing your presentation. Let me say this into the microphone. You have 15 to 30 minutes. Now, I get every program is different, but in general, let me say it again for the people in the back who are not listening. You have 15 to 30 minutes to talk. Think about this. You have been spending years on this research, and you got to condense it down into a 15 to 30-minute conversation. While that might seem like a lot of time right now, I'm going to tell you right now, it is not a lot of time on a day of. You see what this number says right here? Your job, 10 to 15 slides. Y'all be getting carried away. Y'all be getting carried away. Y'all be like, I'm going to have 100 slides. And you spend your whole 30 minutes talking about your literature review that nobody asked you about and nobody cares about. I'm going to need you to challenge yourself. What does it look like to get it down to 10 to 15 slides and to practice having this within the 15 to 30 minutes? You're going to practice. Let's say, for example, when you practice, you were able to do this in 15 minutes. When you get to the day of, it's going to be 30 minutes because you're nervous. You're going to be crying. You're going to forget your words. People are going to try to interrupt you. And so it's going to go longer. Focus on your methods, findings, and discussion. We don't care. Nobody cares about the literature review, I promise you. And I would encourage you to put all your thank yous and acknowledgments at the end. Why? Because if you put it at the beginning, you know what's going to happen. You're going to start crying. Even if you think you're somebody thug, you don't cry. You're going to cry. Just make peace with it. You're going to cry. You want to put, thank you for believing me. Put that at the end. So when you start crying, it's okay. You're going into the question section. Would this be the same for prospectus defense? Yes. In terms of, I have an outline coming up, you would spend more time on the methods. No one cares about your literature. You care about it because you spent all this time and energy on your literature review. No one else cares about it. We need like one slide about the literature. Y'all, I'm a slight rant. I get so irritated when I go to defenses or like conferences and people just talk about their literature. I'm like, where's the research? If I wanted to read a literature review, I would have read the literature review. I came here for your research. Now you ran out of time and you can't tell us about it. Okay, I think y'all get it. Ooh, Mimi, I'm loving this. I hope there's pictures. I hope there's a Pinterest board, you want to share? I'd be open to looking at it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. About 2 to 4 weeks, again, depending on your program, but in general, 2 weeks before your scheduled defense, you are going to send your committee your entire dissertation. That gives them enough time to review it, to provide feedback, and to express to your chair if they have any major concerns about you defending. That's why you have to have this time. It gives them enough time to read and to say, hey, I don't know about this. Everyone is on your side, no matter how they come off. No one wants you to go into a defense and fail it. That's no one wants that. Even the most hateful faculty, like no one wants you to go and do that. So you can trust that if you are moving forward with your defense, that people have confidence that you're going to pass. Your job is to rest, to practice, and prepare for the defense during this 2 week period. I would say heavy on the rest. You probably was sprinting to the finish line to get that document completed so you can send it off to your committee. If you like Mimi, maybe you schedule a photo shoot for memories. My friend made me do a photo shoot in between this period. I was like, girl, I am tired. Do you know what we just did in 2 months? And she was like, but she loves photos, loves photos. And so I was out in the front of campus smiling, looking all sad and tired because I was tired. But I am grateful for those pictures that I can go back and look and see myself, see my baby locks. So that's something. Once you come to the defense day, your chair will most likely open the session. They'll welcome everyone. They'll introduce you, they'll introduce the committee, and they'll provide an overview of the process so that everyone can be on the same page. After they give a brief overview, they're going to say, okay, get out this room. Whether it's a Zoom room or it's the physical room, they're going to ask people to step out so that the committee can discuss privately their general thoughts about your dissertation. And so they can express to your chair if they have any concerns or not, or the chair will say, what questions are you going to ask them? Your chair doesn't want any surprises, and your chair's job is to protect you during the defense. So this is why this conversation is necessary. So your chair knows what the committee is thinking. And so the chair knows how to guide the conversation because you don't know what they talked about, but your chair does. And this is why, if y'all listened to my live earlier on Instagram, if you haven't, it's a great complement to today's conversation. I'll talk about the 10 mistakes that I see students make during their defense. So feel free to listen to that. It'll also be eventually on the podcast. But you have to allow your chair to do their job. Their job is to protect you because you don't know politically what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know certain dynamics. And so you have to trust that your chair has your best interest at heart. Now, if your chair needs a little bit of help, this is something you would have known though before you got to the defense. But if they need a little help with boundaries, and who else on the committee can help you? But most of the time, the chair's job is to show up. We can talk more about that if that's confusing. Okay, so they deliberate, they talk about it, they're like, oh, this is so good. Oh, I'm going to ask them about so-and-so. I'm going to ask them about blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's have the conversation. So then your chair will bring everyone back into the room, and then they will turn it over to you. You will have about 15 to 30 minutes to present your work. Some of y'all have about 45 to 50 minutes. And on average, what I see is a 15 to 30 minute. Like I was just coaching Jennifer, who's she's preparing for her defense. And her chair was like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. We don't care. 10 minutes, love you, mean it, but you got 10 minutes to talk about your research and we're moving on to questions. And I can't wait to see her chair out in public. I know her chair. I cannot wait to see her. I'm just going to hug her because it is one of the most, we've been in sync this whole process of helping this student get through. And she's in Michigan too, Mimi and Edwada, but like, we've been in sync. And I'm like, girl, me and you together. But she's like, you got 10 minutes, get to it, and then we're going to move on. It's going to feel like a blur. No matter if you have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes. It's going to feel like time is just zooming by and you can't get to every point that you want to get to, which is why I encourage you to get 10 to 15 slides and to practice. You will cry or get emotional. It is not a matter of if it will happen. I just need you to count on when it will happen. Will it happen in the beginning? Will it happen randomly during a question? Will it happen at the end? Just make peace with it, okay? You're going to cry. It's going to be all right. After your presentation, now this can go, it depends on the culture of the program. It's either go straight to the audience to ask the audience if they have questions. When this happens, it's usually because the audience gets asked questions and then they're dismissed from the defense, or if the audience gets to remain there, and the chair will go to the committee first to say, what questions do you have? What feedback and questions do you have? But again, it comes down to program culture. Your committee are going to like gush. They're going to be like, oh, I really enjoyed this. I really liked when you said so and so. I like how you incorporated XYZ. But my question is on this. I'm saying this because I want you to, as much as you can, mentally prepare to hear good things about your work. To practice compliments about your writing and your research, and not just sitting there being like, okay, yeah, just tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what the problem is. Because you're dismissing the positive things they're saying about your work. And the more that rush to be like, yeah, but just tell me what's wrong. Just don't try to, what's the word? Like, don't try to, I don't know. I don't want to say play, but that's the only word that's coming to my mind. It's like, don't try to play me. Don't try to butter me up. Just tell me what the truth is. It's all true. It's all true. If you don't practice hearing good things about your work, you will never believe your work is good enough. Someone can enjoy your work and critique it at the same time. Okay. Randomly, I'm going to use a Beyonce thing again. I can critique Beyonce with the best of them, and she's still going to be my all-time favorite artist. Two things can be true at the same time. That is true about your work. Someone could entirely love your dissertation and still want to critique it. Just because they're critiquing it doesn't mean anything is wrong with it. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to go through. On average, you're mostly going to get asked somewhere between 5 to 10 questions total, because time is a factor. By the time we get to questions, we're already an hour into this thing. Like I said, you're already about an hour into it. Most of you're only scheduling your defense for 2 hours, at the most 3 hours. But that's not a lot of time, y'all. So each committee member could probably only ask you about 1 to 3 questions. Your chair most likely is not going to ask you anything. The only time your chair will probably ask you a question is if they know that they're like, oh, you answered that question, you missed a really important thing, and I know you know it, so let me reframe the question and throw it back at you so you can shine. They're asking you questions so you can shine. After this question thing, your committee may also say what change, like the changes they would suggest for you to make for publications purposes. How you know your defense is over, this is an insider tip. How you know you passed and it's over, if your committee jumps to where are you publishing? Where are you going to do after this degree? It's over. I want listen to me. Put a sticky note somewhere on your computer screen. When the conversation shifts, where are you going to publish? Just be confident you passed. Because why would you be talking about publications if you didn't pass, if they had concern about your work? Put that on the sticky, all right? Okay. Once the time limit has been reached or there's just no more questions, your committee will go back into private deliberations. They'll remove everyone from the room. And they are just making a decision. Did you pass, yes or no? If you passed, are you passing with no revisions, major revisions, or minor revisions? And if you're passing with revisions, does the committee need to see it? Or can you just submit it? Can you work it out with your chair and just submit it to the graduate school? That's what that conversation mostly is trying to get to. Now, for the committees that take forever to come back, does not mean that something has gone wrong. Most of the time, they got distracted. They got distracted because they were still talking about your work and being like, but they could publish here and they can do this. And what if they did this? But they forgot that you were waiting on the answer. They're human. Now, in the rare case that they have major concerns, they are discussing how to communicate those concerns with you. Because again, no one wants to embarrass you. So it may be a plan where they're like, all right, chair, you're going to deliver the information. We're just going to tell them that they can't, that they're not passing this time, but you're going to tell them more information later on. But this is what we want you to say. But again, like I said, no one wants you to go into a defense if there's not a high chance of you passing. Now, each committee member can make their own decision. Like they can choose from one of these options, but then there's a final collective decision. So what I mean by that is like one committee member can be like, pass with major revisions, I don't like it. And 2 other can be like, pass with no revisions. And as a group, it's passed with no revisions, even though that one committee member was like, There's a host of reasons why they might be acting like that day. Your committee will return to the room after about 10 to 15 minutes. Your chair will announce the decision. Then people will celebrate. And then if you're on Zoom or in person, but especially on Zoom, just prepare that this is the time that your family, every family member has to make a speech. I'm not really sure why. These are my favorite because I love listening to them. But just to mentally prepare that every family member, because they're going to be so overwhelmed by the process. Like, you got to think about it. For a lot of your family members, this is going to be their first time seeing you as a scholar, like understanding that it's not just school, like high school, that it's, oh, this is different. And they're gonna be overcome by emotion. Yes, my dad, I remember when you was just a little girl and you made me teach you how to read. I was like, do we need to do this right now? Now that was at my graduation party. Now I can't imagine him being on the defense. I would have been like, sir, calm it down, ready to leave. My defense was real quick. I feel like my chair was like, congratulations, doctor. And then everybody was like, okay, bye. And everybody just left the room. We took a picture and they were gone. I was like, no, that just, and then I want to go teach. First year students, don't do that. Don't be me. Don't be me. Go celebrate. I almost strangled an undergrad student. I almost strangled one of them. At some point, whether it's after your defense or later on, your committee will want to discuss like more in-depth feedback, like feedback that has nothing to do with if you passed the defense or not, but more so feedback around how you're talking about topics, because they're thinking about you're going to publish, but this is not the end of the road. And so they're going to want to talk to you more about what journals, how you want to frame things, maybe who you want to add with papers, and like low key, their committee wants you to publish with them. I want you to be careful. There are some vampires, some vultures on your committee. Now, you might be looking up to them and be like, no, they wouldn't do that. I see this more often than you can imagine. That because you don't know how good you are, because you keep questioning whether or not what you wrote is good enough, your committee members, some of them may take advantage of that, and they will try to get you to commit to publishing with them in the room, because they know if you leave your defense and you go talk to other people, that somebody else might get to you before they can get to you. So be careful in how they disguise it, of like, oh, I really like when you said this point. I think we should work on that together. Give you a little winky face. And you feel so like honored that they like, really? You would choose me? That you like, yes, we can publish. You didn't have no time to think about, are y'all on the same page philosophically? Y'all do the same type of research? Are they trying to use your research for their gain in terms of tenure and whatnot? Because you did all the work and they want to come in and slide in and put their name as what is the word I'm looking for, first author? No. Because they're gonna be like, no, I'm the senior person. You can be second. Some people might say, I'll do second author, that's fine. But they're not gonna do any work. I'm not saying that this is all people, y'all. I just want you to look out for this. If you have a positive or a decent relationship with your chair, politically, the honor should go to them first. If you're gonna work with anybody, it should go with them. And then your committee. Because your chair put in the most work with you. They were with you week in and week out, trying to help you frame things and move things around. Your committee really only came during the proposal defense and the final defense. Now, if you have a different relationship with your committee members, that's different. But in general, those people only came in at the end when all the work was done. So just be careful, all right? Now, when you prepare for your proposal presentation, this is what you want to cover. Do what you want to, the more brief you could do, the better. Because again, if we want more information and we want you to give us details, you know what we will do? Read your dissertation. Your committee read the dissertation already. They don't need you to go into in-depth things. They read it. You can trust they read it and they understood it. Your job is to go through this really quickly. Introduce yourself. What brought you to this work? Keep it cute, under a minute or so. Give us a real brief overview of the problem, purpose, and significance, and any like key points from your literature. This, you see how it's all one slide? We don't need multiple slides. That's how you're going to get carried away. And if this is your proposal defense, this is why it's in red. You spend majority of your time here. This is what IRB is going to ask you about. This is what your committee is going to ask you about. The whole goal of a proposal defense is, do you have a clear plan of collecting data, and do you know what you're going to do with that data once you have it? Are you breaking any rules or any ethics? That's what IRB cares about. If you can't fully explain these, you need to go back to the drawing board and do some more working, because that's what the defense is about. No one cares about this part. We care about this part. Then you can end this with any hopes and goals that you have for this project. If it's your final defense, again, we're going to go through this really quickly. It should take you 2 to 3 minutes. Go through this really quickly because if we would have went through the proposal defense or we would have read your work. And I get that there are going to be people in the room who are not as familiar with your work. Again, you can talk to them at the end because where you need to spend most of your time are the findings. What did you find? What are we supposed to do with those findings? People run out of time here, even though this is the longest section of the final defense. You want to read all the quotes and blurbs, but you ain't got no time. This is why I want you to just go zoom through the beginning so you have enough time to fully give your findings the energy and the time they deserve. This is also a part where people run out of time. They just end up, most of the defenses I go to, they just put up the slide and they go by because they're like, I ran out of time. Whatever, because these are going to be your questions. These are the questions that your committee they're going to mainly focus on. What are your interpretations? How do your findings relate to the literature? What are we supposed to do with these findings? How are we supposed to implement this in practice and research? What are some recommendations for future research and practice? That's what we want to know about because you're a doctor. We came to hear and listen to the expert. You. Okay, final tips. You are the expert in the room. You are the smartest person in the room when it comes to this topic. No one's going to ask you a question that you ain't going to know the answer to, friend. If you don't know the answer, it's because the question didn't make sense. Because you've been doing this for years. Because I need to let that sink in. You've been thinking about this for years. Even if they do similar work to you, they still don't know this particular project the way you know it. So keep that in mind. Answer the question that was asked. Nothing more, nothing less. Did you think about using Black feminist thought? I did. Let them say, and why didn't you? Oh, because I found a different framework. Answer the question that was asked. You can't take responsibility because they don't know how to ask questions. That's on them. Your job is to answer them, not to help them learn how to ask good questions. If you don't know the answer or if it's outside the scope, say thank you for that question. I didn't consider that, but I'll consider it for the future. Thank you, but I believe that's outside the scope of this project, but I could definitely write that down and consider it for a future research project. Oh, thank you. I didn't quite focus on that directly, but here's something that I found that's similar. You can redirect people. You can politely tell them that question ain't make no sense. I didn't say nothing about that in my work. An example would be, here I am talking about how you can't separate spirituality from who you are as a researcher. Committee member is like, you talked about spirituality in your proposal, but I don't see Jesus in your findings. And I was like, girl, Jesus ain't here. I didn't say nothing about no Jesus, nowhere in this thing. She's like, yeah, but you talked about spirituality. And I just looked at her until another committee member was like, yeah, I think in this project, Jesus does not equate to spirituality. Because I just was answering her. But that's an example of what I mean. Like, your committee, they're people, they're humans, they make mistakes, they go all off the topic. They're not really paying that much attention. You can treat them like humans, is my point. Because you are the expert in the room. I'll keep repeating that. If your committee gets into a passionate conversation with themselves, you know what your job is to do? Sit there and drink water and watch them. You don't exist in their room. You just let them talk. I mean, they're going to be like, well, I think they should do this, but I think they should do that. You let them argue. And until somebody speaks to you directly, you have nothing to say. It's not that I'm trying to say like you should silence yourself. It's that where I see people go left is you interrupted a conversation that had nothing to do with really about you or the topic. I know they're talking about your dissertation, but a lot of times people be having arguments, but they're using your work. You're like, are we really talking about research or we talking about something else? Because y'all are real passionate. But either way, you let them talk it out. Because when I see students, like they try to interrupt and they try to say, well, I was thinking this and I was thinking that. Now you're going down a whole rabbit hole that you may be opening yourself up for additional questions that have nothing to do with your dissertation, only to come back at the end for them to say, we don't think you finished your dissertation because you talked about these points throughout the defense, but you didn't include it in your document. So we think you should go back and include those in your document and then schedule another defense. Don't do that. Just sit there and be like, oh, they talking. And again, only when they ask you a question is when you answer them. Your committee is on your side, but I just want you to know they are academics and they get distracted and they try to bring in additional things and allow your chair to do their job. If the committee gets carried away, it's your chair's job to say, can we come back The main goal here. Do you have any other questions? Have we reached a decision? Your job is to sit there, look pretty, drink your water, mind your business. Write some notes, questions, thoughts, reactions. Was that helpful?